In northeastern Indiana, where I'm from, there's a few things you can count on this time of year. The leaves change colors, there's a lot more rain, and the temperatures get cooler. We also have the corn harvest and the pumpkin patches and apple harvest. In honor of the apple harvest, I thought we would take some of these beautiful apples that I got the other day and turn them into some apple butter. Along with the apple butter, I thought it would be nice to have some homemade English muffins. So to make our apple butter, we're going to need 6 pounds of apples, 1 tablespoonful of cinnamon, a teaspoonful of vanilla extract, a half a teaspoon of nutmeg, a pinch each of ginger and ground cloves, 1 cup of white granulated sugar, and a half a cup of brown sugar. Now I've already soaked my apples in hot water to get most of the wax off. I also washed them and cleaned them in some cool vinegar water to help sterilize them. And so now the first step we're going to do is to peel our apples. When you make apple butter, you usually want to use a variety of apples, like half sweet, half tart. But all I have is the Granny Smith apples and Honeycrisp. And those are more used like for baking, but that's all I have on hand. That's what I have left over from Jada's engagement party. So we're just going to use those, and I'm just going to add a little bit of extra sugar if I need to. If I don't need it, then I won't add it. And another thing is I'm going to keep all of my peels and all of my cores, and I'm going to make an apple cider vinegar. So that'll be fun. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just start peeling our apples. One thing that's nice is about making like an apple butter or applesauce is that you can just cut out any bad spots. Like if there's a bruise or something, you can just cut it right out. Through the magic of video, we're now done peeling all of our apples, and I'm just going to give them a really quick rinse. Now we're just going to core them. You can use one of these little doohickeys if you want, if you have one. If you don't, then just use your knife. I usually end up having to use my knife anyway just to kind of get that out. Kind of trim them up a little bit. Those all look pretty good. So now that we got everything peeled and cored, and we're just going to go ahead and give them a really rough chop, and then we're going to just throw them in the crock pot. Sometimes when you're working with the apples, they might turn a little brown after they've been in the air for a while. So you see that right there? That's okay. That's no big deal. It doesn't mean that they're bad or anything like that. And besides, it doesn't matter. We're not really looking to have pretty apples because they're going to be all mushed up with all kinds of sugar and spices and stuff anyway. We want to make them kind of small so that they, can cook a little faster, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so that's 6 pounds of apples we got in there. They're all diced up and peeled and cored and everything. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add our sugars and spices and everything nices. So we got a cup of sugar, half a cup of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So we're going to add that. Then we have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We have a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. We have a whole teaspoon of cinnamon. And then we're going to just throw in a dash of ginger. I guess that's a dash. And a dash of cloves. All right. So now we're just going to give it a good mix, get everything mixed together. Okay, give it a good mix. Put the lid on and set your crock pot to low. Okay, so I got that apple mess cleaned up a little bit. When you make homemade English muffins, you want to think of it kind of like as a sourdough. And also, too, what's kind of crazy is that you don't bake them. It's much like a sourdough starter. It's just a little bit of water, a little bit of flour, a little bit of yeast, and you're going to let it set for about 12 hours. At least an hour and a half to let it proof or cure or whatever you want to call it, come alive, and but up to 12 hours. So the longer you let it set, the more of a sourdough flavor it will have. So let's go ahead and get that ready. So what I like to do is I like to use warm water, and I will pour that in my bowl, and then I will use, so that's a half a cup of water to a half a teaspoon of dry active yeast or instant yeast, whichever you have. That's what I use. And then 3/4 cup of flour. You can use all-purpose flour or you can use bread flour. So I'm just gonna go one. It's a fourth. This is a fourth cup, so I just do it 3 times. 3/4. 2. 3. All right. And then we're going to give that a little whisk. Whisk it together. So we'll get it all whisked up, and it'll look like that. And then we're going to cover it with a towel and just set it aside. You want it to set aside at least an hour and a half, but it's better the longer you let it sit, the better it is. The more sourdough flavor it'll have. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use these apple scraps that we have and make some homemade vinegar. So to begin with, we're going to take 1 tablespoon of sugar per 1 cup of water, and we're going to dissolve it. I made mine a little bit warm to try and help dissolve the sugar a little bit. It doesn't have to be dissolved all the way, but you know, most of the way. This is what our water will look like with a little bit of dissolved sugar in it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fill up our jar with just all of our peels and cores and the little chunks that we cut off. You want to fill it up about, like 3/4 of the way full with just all the scraps. See if we can smash that down a little bit. That looks pretty good. All right. Then we're going to take our water and we're just going to pour it right in. Uh-oh, I might need more water. Finish covering up these apple scraps. Not like that. See so far? Okay, and then we're going to take a coffee filter. We're just going to put it right over the top. If you have a rubber band, use a rubber band. If not, I got a hair tie that I'm going to use. So that's 1 jar. Pretty, right? So we're going to make this our 2nd jar. All right. Squish it all down there. Fill it up with our water. Like that. And just top it off. Now, coffee filter on it with a hair tie. Oops. With a hair tie, rubber band, something just to hold it in place. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a cup of milk, and I just warmed it up a little bit in the microwave, just a little bit to help the yeast get activated. We're going to take 1 tablespoon of dry active yeast, and we're going to put it in the warmed up milk. Okay, and we're going to do this. Give it a good little whisk. Pour it in a bowl. Give it a little whisk, and then we're going to put our starter dough in. Now, when you mix these two together, you're going to want to make sure that you break your starter dough up really well. This is going to be kind of gloopy. Like so. Make sure you get it all out. You want to make sure that you get that starter dough all broke up. It might take a couple of minutes. See how it's still kind of gloopy? You want to get that all broke up. Okay, so that's all broke up really well. And you notice how foamy it is, right? That's what we want it to look like. Now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. Okay, and then 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to combine all of this together. Okay, it's nice and foamy. Now we're going to add 3 cups of flour. And between each cup, we're going to give it a good little mix. So here's the first cup. Give it a mix. Here's our second cup. We'll incorporate it in. Your dough is going to start getting a little stiffer, which is okay. That's kind of what we want. And here's our third cup. And what we're going to do is we're going to blend it. We're going to incorporate everything together. This is going to be a nice shaggy dough. It's going to be really sticky as well. Okay, at this stage, you're going to want to take it out. Put a little bit of flour on the countertop. With this dough, you want to use as little flour as possible. You want it to be just a little bit sticky. Okay, and so we're going to give it a good knead. Like so. It's a very nice soft dough. Now, see how it's sticky like that? You don't want it like that. Okay, you want it like just a little tacky. So we can add just a little flour. Not much. See how it's kind of sticking to the countertop? We don't want it to do that. Now, when we're done kneading it, it should be nice and smooth and just tacky, not sticky, but tacky. And be very nice and smooth and bounce back when you poke it. I think this is probably about good. All right, so it's a nice smooth round ball. And when you poke it, it bounces back. That's how you know it's ready. And it's just got a little bit of tack to it. Doesn't really stick to you, but it's just tacky. An oiled bowl, which I already have, and you put it in there. If you want more of a sourdough muffin, then you can stick this in your refrigerator for up to 3 days and let it rise. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and cook it straight through. And at this point, you would just let it rise until it doubles in size, just like you would like bread or anything else. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to cover it and let it rise for a couple hours. Okay, so our apple butter's been cooking for about, give or take, 5 hours. And you can see that it's nice and mushy now. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to give it a good mixy mix here. And then we're going to take, I just turned it off just for a minute. We're going to take our immersion blender and blend it all up. As you can see, it's still pretty watery. It's not as thick as we like it, but I'm going to give it a taste and see if we need to add more sugar before we go any further. Oh man, that is good. That is really, really good. Okay, so what I did is I took my muffin dough and I put it in a warm oven. I turned my oven up to 170, and as soon as it hit temperature, I turned it off and then put a towel over my muffin dough here and put it in the oven and let it rise and double in size. So now it's doubled in size. If you have a pastry cutter, it'll work a lot better than this, but that's what I have. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a cookie sheet and a piece of parchment paper. We'll lay the parchment paper like so. And then you're going to get a little cornmeal. And you're going to sprinkle it on your parchment paper like this. You don't need a lot, just a little. Just like that. Okay, and then we'll set this aside. And now we're going to do like you would do with bread dough. You're just going to punch it down. Okay, kind of bring it together. A nice, beautiful round ball. Isn't that gorgeous? Doesn't that look so pretty? So now what we're going to do is we want to get 12 muffins out of this. If you have the little muffin cups, that's great. I personally don't, so I just pretty much eye them. So what I do is I fold them under like so. And just kind of go like that. And then that will be one muffin. And I just kind of squish it down just a little bit, not a lot. Cut another one. And again, just kind of fold it over. Now these are going to be tacky. You don't want them like super sticky, but as you can see, they're a little tacky, and that's fine. So that's muffin number 2. When we're done cutting them, what we're going to do is cover them with another piece of parchment paper, and we'll let them rise again. And then I'll show you how we'll cook them. And you see we have 12 English muffins. And so what we're going to do now is you're just going to get some yellow cornmeal or white, whichever you prefer. And we're just going to sprinkle some over the top like so. And I'm going to get some more parchment paper. I got this at the Dollar Tree. They sell all kinds of stuff like this. Comes in really handy. We're just going to cover it like this, and we're going to let it rise for about an hour. So here's our beautiful, lovely muffins after rising for maybe about an hour, maybe just a hair more. So we're going to cook these on a griddle, and we're going to cook them like 5 to 6 minutes on each side. And I do set a timer because they will burn very easily. You can either use butter, or I like to, personally, I like to use olive oil. I feel like it just works a little bit better. Maybe I'm using a cast iron griddle, but you can use a skillet, and a nonstick skillet if you have it, or one of those long griddles. Just pretty much whatever you have. Just watch your heat, adjust as needed, either up or down. Usually I have to go down because my cast iron gets hot really fast. When you place your muffins on your pan, you want to make sure that you place them about an inch or so apart, about like that. And we're just going to do 4 at a time. Now, if you want your muffins a little fluffier, you can leave it just like that. But if you want them a little flatter, just give them a little press, just like that, and they'll be a little flatter. They won't be so puffy. I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes. Okay, so we're going to take a peek, see how they look. Oh, nice. Nice golden brown, a little crispy, but not burnt. I did have to lower my heat a little bit. It was starting to cook a little too fast. Okay, let's set it for another 5 minutes. Okay, so this is our first batch done. They got a little bit crispy, so I had to adjust the heat again, which is fine. We'll just transfer them onto a plate to cool off. Next 4. We'll just do the same thing again. Okay, this is our last batch. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, let's cut these beauties open and take a look inside. It's a little bit crispy on the top, but that's when I was still adjusting my heat, so it's still going to be good. Cut it open. Look at that. I'm going to pop her in the toaster. Got some of my homemade strawberry jam that I preserved over the summer. I'm going to slather some of that on there. That'll be tasty. As you can see, we've been eating a lot of it. It's good. Here's our muffin. Nice and toasty, hot. Sucker's hot. Look at that. Beautiful. Let's get some of this butter and jelly on it. Give her a taste. Look at that. Here we go. Really, honestly, these are better than store-bought, I feel. They're crispy and toasty. So good. And my jelly is just that little bit of sweet and tart at the same time. Very good. Okay, and here's our apple butter. And the way that we know that it's done is it'll look like this. Yeah. And then when you put it on the spoon, it will not fall off. Yeah, not fall off. Yeah. Say what? Not fall off. That's right. It's my granddaughter. She's spending the night with me tonight. Okay, so our apple butter is done now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut one of the muffins that we made and I'm going to slather it with some of this homemade apple butter. Yummy. Pop that right in the toaster. Now the English muffins, you can either put them in like an airtight container, or I just save an old bag, just an old bread bag, and just keep them in your refrigerator, and they'll stay good for like up to a week, maybe a little bit longer, but mine are usually gone within just a few days. So that's how I keep them. Done. Done? What you doing, girl? Some of our warm apple butter. All right. We got our homemade muffin with some of our homemade apple butter. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Say it again. I like that. You want to try some apple butter? It's a little hot. Is it good? Want some more? Yeah. Is it good? Yeah. Okay, I will definitely leave the recipes for the English muffins as well as the apple butter in the description below. If you guys try one of the recipes, leave me a comment. Let me know how you liked it. If you have any questions about it, let me know, and I will definitely get back to you about it. The muffins, like I said earlier, can be kept in a plastic bag in your refrigerator for up to a week, or you can just put it in an airtight container. It doesn't matter either way. In your apple butter, you can put it in a jar or a container and stick it in the fridge, and it'll be good for up to 3 months. Or you can do like I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna can mine. I'm gonna water bath it, and it'll be good for like up to a year, probably longer, but shelf stable for a year. And here, you want some muffin? Thank you, ma'am. And like I said, if you have any questions or anything, just leave them in the comments below and I'll definitely get back to you. The apple butter ended up taking about 12 hours to make. I don't know if it's because of the apples that I chose to use, or I'm not really sure, but it took about 12 hours to make. It wasn't very hard though. I just kind of put it in the crock pot and let it go and do its thing. So yeah. All right, you guys, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.